I'd like to call this meeting of the Public Works Committee to order. Thanks to Mr. Strino and Mr. Martinelli for conducting a tour of the public safety building. It was enlightening, at least to myself, hopefully to you as well. Thanks for making it happen. Appreciate it. First item is the call to order and roll call. I will make mention of the fact that Supervisor Belsky is not feeling well health-wise. And as I look around, we have our youth and governance. Are you our youth and governance person here? Citizens comments. Any citizens comments? Anybody who'd like to address the committee has 5 minutes to speak. We just ask that you would give us your name and address for the record. No citizens comments. Going once, going twice. Citizens comments are closed. Approval of the minutes from previous meetings. I would trust that the supervisors in the room here have had a chance to review those. I'd ask for approval if there are no particular questions or concerns. Move to approve. Been moved. And second. Second. All those in favor of approving the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are passed. Chairman, committee, supervisors, comments. I have none at this point other than to mention that we'll have an upcoming meeting next month during the month of October, and the particular place of that meeting is yet to be determined, but we'll try to keep it on a rotating basis as long as we have somewhat fair weather. With that, I'll turn it over to any committee members who might have comments.
Is that in addition to the meeting on the 14th?
That was a good point to make. We'll have a meeting on the 14th, which is basically for the adoption review, if you would, of the public works budget. And we'll be going through each department in its entirety, and we'll try to come to a consensus at that meeting on the 14th of next month. Do you have a time for that set up already?
We usually do it early. We usually do it at 6, just in case it
Okay.
runs longer that day.
So unless it is stated otherwise, you can pretty much put in your appointment book 6 p.m., 10:14, 24, and that'll happen right at KCC. It'll be right at Highway 1545. It will be one of the conference rooms, committee rooms.
Yeah, it'll be at the hearing room.
Hearing room.
And then since we're on the subject, the 22nd, which is in October, is when we present the finance.
Okay.
Which will be around 6 p.m. as well.
So in the hearing room, that's the big room.
Correct.
Okay, then that'll be on the 14th.
Yes.
Okay. Good, thanks for bringing that up, Supervisor Decker, appreciate it. Any other supervisor comments at this particular time? Seeing none, we'll move on. The first item we have is the temporary interior assessment discussion. And basically, I'm just going to touch upon that briefly. I'd want Supervisor Belsky to give us more of the details since she is more familiar with it. But I think what we can say is that there are some somewhat immediate concerns with the revenue that can be generated from Kemper and needing a little bit of a facelift, dress up, whatever. And it has to do with the chapel area where the weddings are often conducted and some of the dressing rooms or auxiliary areas. But other than that, I'm not overly familiar with it, so we'll put that off until next month.
As long as we're discussing it, and we're gonna discuss it next month.
Yeah.
Can we get a spreadsheet or a report or whatever of all the money that the county has spent on Kemper Center since we purchased it? I know there was a spreadsheet or something like that created in about 2017. And so adding to that, plus moving forward to today's date, plus what we have planned in the CIP would be great.
Yeah, Jim Kupfer had started one that we've updated every year since.
Great.
Just has a year in the total, and then we could put in a 25 budget is.
Okay, great, thank you.
Is that reasonable if that could be part of our process on the 14th of next month, in 2 weeks? further questions or comments before I move on to the next item? Seeing none, I believe we're on item number 2, which is Highway Division. Mr. Greg Volk.
So there are two items here under the Highway Division. The first one is a resolution to amend state and local highway system. So what this is the transfer, the jurisdictional transfer of State Highway 75 will become a County Highway BB, and County Trunk Highway KR is going to become State Highway 195. So we will be doing a jurisdictional transfer with Racine County and the Wisconsin DOT on both of these roads. But in general, that is what the resolutions are there for. So there's one memorandum of understanding, and then two jurisdictional transfers, basically transferring those, going through the documents to formally transfer those roadways. And then the naming of State Trunk Highway 75 to County Trunk Highway BB. So that was a choice that the county with Kenosha County and Racine County selected on due to Brighton and Dover, which are the two communities that go through that roadway will basically kind of goes through both in Racine and Kenosha County. State Highway 195 is picked by the state, and it was the next number in line is what they told us. So no specific reason for that. I know the packet is large. I know it's like 99 pages of stuff. I can go through more of it as you want me to. But unless there are any questions, I'll kind of go with that unless you need more information that I can try to pull out for you.
Would you just kind of do a timeline, some of the highlights of those 99 pages, and then start out just by saying, who's driving the bus on this? Is this really the state's, how did this come about?
When it came about, obviously, I just had to do research on that. I wasn't here. But as my understanding, it was a lot of the county, Racine County and Kenosha County executives saying when KR was reconstructed to the urban cross section with the 4 lanes and the curb and gutter, the paved medians, not the paved, the grass medians, they looked at that and said, this is just going to cost a lot more for us as a county to maintain. And so my understanding is they approached the DOT saying, is there anything we can do differently here? Because, great, it's a new road now, and so there's limited maintenance now on County Trunk KR, but as that road deteriorates, the maintenance costs are just going to start escalating and become a problem for budgeting for both Racine and Kenosha County. So at that point, why was 75 picked as a swap? I don't know, but then it was determined that County Trunk State Highway 75 was originally built because of the Richard Bong Air Force Base being there. Obviously, the Air Force Base was never built into fruition. So the state looked at it and said, I guess all parties looked at it and said, that seems to be the fair swap as far as the state would take County Trunk KR because of development there, and the counties would take over 75. The first document of the memorandum of understanding is something that will have to be signed by all the counties and the DOT. It goes through about 5 or 6 different MOUs and jurisdictional transfers of KR that happened in the past. So there's some recitals that go through each one of those MOUs. And after that, so probably half of that 99 pages are the old MOUs that kind of refer back to this MOU in the recitals portion. So they're all kind of there. And they were kind of written funky where at one point they just actually transferred the same section of road twice. Then they had to de-take it out and put it back in. So there's kind of some legal maneuvering through those. One of the big things that you will notice is the roadway is completely lighted. If you've been out there, it's completely lighted. All those lights are going to be removed, and they are going to be Kenosha, not Kenosha County, I'm sorry, Racine County and or the Village of Mount Pleasant will be responsible for paying to remove all those lights because the state does not continuously light a roadway that they're under the maintenance of. And in fact, if you go through this, one of the agreements here was for the lighting. Racine County signed it, the DOT never did. I believe that was probably on purpose. So the roadway lighting out there will be for the most part removed. The intersection lighting will stay there, the traffic signals will stay there, but the roadway lighting will be removed. So that's kind of the MOU, in kind of a short sense. As far as like transferring State Highway 75 to Racine and Kenosha counties, Kenosha County will be responsible to maintain the new County Trunk Highway BD or the old trunk State Highway 75 within Racine County, which is from State Highway 50 north up to the Racine Kenosha state line, which is like Kenosha Avenue. It's kind of a county road up there, right where that breaks off. And then Racine County will be responsible for their portion. The state will maintain maintenance and ownership of the intersections that intersect with state highways. So where 75 and 142 intersect per se, the state will maintain ownership of that intersection. So typically what does happen is intersections are maintained by the, I'll call it highest authority, if you look at state, county, local. So usually the highest authority owns that intersection so that they can do improvements if they feel they need to maintain their, I'll call it state roadway. So 142, 11, 20, there's another one in there. I might have missed one, but I think you get the gist of what they're doing there. So that is that. I guess the jurisdictional transfer, if everything gets approved, as we expect it to, will go into effect November 15th of 2024. So this November will be that full transfer. Signing, my understanding is, we have received some of the signs from the sign shop. So the state will pay us to re-sign State Highway 195. We will have to pay to re-sign County Trunk BD. What that means is our crews will do it all. The state will reimburse us to do 195. They will not reimburse us to do State Highway 75. The other thing, I guess, just kind of talking about KR, we've always maintained with Kenosha County Trunk KR with Kenosha County crews. The county maintains all the state roadways within our county. But then we get revenue. I'll say revenue and reimbursement. I know Chris and I use different words, but we get revenue from the state for the time that we spend maintaining those roadways, right? So, we will now get revenue for maintaining County Trunk KR or State Highway 195 from the interstate east to Meacham Road or County Trunk Y or 22nd Avenue. So pick one of those three names. It's the same road. It's Meacham in Racine County, 22nd Avenue in Kenosha County, also County Trunk County Y in Kenosha County. So we will maintain from the interstate to Meacham. Racine County will maintain from Meacham to Sheridan Road, Highway 32. And again, Racine will receive revenue from DOT for their portion, just like Kenosha County will receive revenue from our portion. But we will obviously receive no revenue anymore for maintaining 75, which becomes County BD. That'll be fully on the county. Although we've always done it, we just won't get reimbursed or get revenue for doing that.
Anything else to add before we take some questions here?
No.
Supervisor Meadows?
The first question was, who was pushing this? I didn't hear the answer to, is this the state saying this is what we're going to do and we need you to follow suit?
No, I think it was really something that the counties asked the states to do.
Oh, okay.
Right, because I think when it very first started, the counties, Racine and Kenosha County reached out to the state and said, this is gonna become very expensive for us to maintain. We
Okay.
need to find a way that we can't maintain County Truck KR
Okay.
because of the way it was built. So I really think it was Racine and Kenosha counties that reached out to the state, and the state was agreeable.
And they're okay. So
Yeah.
that's my second, Lisa, my second question is, we're switching which roads we have to personally pay for to maintain.
Yes.
What is it budget neutral to do that swap, or are we getting a better deal out of it because KR is currently so expensive to maintain?
Yeah, so. Yes, the county is getting a better deal out of it.
Okay.
We have been looking at it, and we think there could be a savings, up to $100,000 a year for, having to maintain 75 versus KR.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, and then there's the long-term maintenance,
Yeah.
that KR.
Supervisor,
When you say up to 100,000, that's for plowing?
Well, it's,
Or what-
you got, so it's plowing,
Okay,
mowing, and street sweeping.
so the increased size of KR would increase our costs to mow, sweep, and plow $100,000 a year.
That's kind of rough
Roughly.
estimates what we are trying to look at, yes.
And, or,
Up to, because,
right,
County Truck KR, you have to street sweep it because it's got,
curbs.
curbs there, so, it'll still be street swept, but we should be there's a potential that there's some monies there too.
And how much more, I know we haven't had jurisdiction over KR since the rebuilding started how many years ago? How much more, do we have in expenses on Highway 75 versus when we had KR, or is it a pretty even swap KR for 75? Do you know that? I know you weren't.
You mean expenses as to when KR was just a 2-lane road?
Yes,
That I wouldn't know.
Okay.
What KR was, like what we paid, I guess, what revenue we received from KR.
well, we wouldn't have received any revenue because it was ours.
Oh, yeah, you're right, yeah,
We did split it with
Right.
Racine,
right, correct.
so.
So, yeah, I don't know what we would have
I think
spent.
the mileages are pretty
Are they?
similar.
Right,
Okay.
so, yeah, mileage wise, I was doing some looking at this. So we will be State Highway 75 that we will be acquiring that becomes County BD is 7.09 miles.
Our section.
Our section is 7.09 miles long. And the, section of County Truck KR is right around 5.7 miles. So KR is shorter that we're gonna maintain than, 75. But when you look at lane miles, right, when you look at, taking some very rough numbers, right, and this was pretty quick and dirty, looking at, State Highway 75 is about a 2-lane road, just about the entire length.
Mhm.
So there you're looking at about 14 lane miles. Looking at, lane miles of KR, about 4.5 miles is 4-lane road, plus some bigger shoulders. And about 1.3 miles is 2-lane road. So when you look at that, that's about 20.7 lane miles. So therefore, when you look at lane miles, we are decreasing the amount of lane miles that we'll have to maintain.
And now the state's taking over from the Interstate East.
Correct.
So it's still gonna be KR from Interstate West, is that correct? And under both of our.
Yeah, and, Racine
Racine.
County maintains west of the interstate.
Okay, okay. And will we have to reimburse them?
No, I mean, I don't know that there's an agreement that there's any difference there now. I have not heard anything about them wanting us to,
Cause I thought they plowed part of it
yeah,
and we plowed it previously. We plowed the other part and that's how it was just a wash.
I think it's a wash again because of the amount of 75 impacts the counties the same. So I think it's just been a mute discussion point.
Okay,
But we can just double check, but I believe that's why it's kind of stayed mute.
okay, thank you.
further questions from the committee? Just a question. So as it stands currently, just the way it is now, with KR east of the interstate to countywide. Who has jurisdiction to maintain that?
As of today,
That's
the state. I'm sorry, the county. I'm sorry, I apologize. Kenosha County
correct.
maintains that currently.
Both the eastbound and the westbound lanes, is that correct?
Correct.
Whereas in the old days, when it was a 2-lane road, was it jurisdictional that Racine County maintained the north half and we maintained the south half?
My understanding is no, it was still, you know, they did it by Meacham. So so when KR became this 4-lane road, it really hit, there was a bigger impact to Kenosha County than there was Racine County, right? Because all of a sudden, we were just maintaining a 2-lane road, and now we're maintaining a 4-lane road. So that the maintenance hit really fell on Kenosha County more than it did Racine County anyways.
So just in the current state of affairs as we're at today, right now as we speak, is current county KR divided between the two counties in terms of county line boundary, or does it lie within one county entirely?
That I couldn't tell you. I don't know exactly where the section line is. I don't know if it straddles it, if it's one side of.
Yeah.
Regardless, the salient point is that really it is we as Kenosha County that do the current maintenance on that road east of the I, correct?
Up to Meacham.
Correct.
Yep, and then from Meacham to Sheridan Road is Racine County.
Correct, right.
Yeah, so it probably does, I would assume at that point, then the reason that is probably it does split, you know, the county line. I guess I haven't looked at the section corners to know that.
And then just to further elucidate, going from Beecham Road or countywide east to Sheridan, what is the situation there in terms of maintenance and road responsibility?
Well, currently it's all Racine County. It'll become the state's responsibility should everything pass.
East of Y.
East of Y, everything currently is maintained.
It is, okay,
Right, currently, right now, east of Y is all Racine counties.
okay. And that would include maintenance, road reconstruction, improvements, everything,
Correct,
potential curb guttering, everything.
correct. As of right now, it's Racine County.
Okay.
If this goes through, it'll then get transferred to the state.
Well, I think it's quite a lot of paperwork and detail, but in the sense that we would have less obligation lane miles wide than we have now, it's probably a better deal for Kenosha County in the long run to have less maintenance responsibilities and more.
We've kind of said this, now 75, County Truck BD becomes a 4-lane road at some point,
That's a different.
then it's a different story, but I think that's a long way down the road.
Further committee members' discussion or comments?
I should have Highway 75 right now.
It's not terrible, right? We've looked at it. We're gonna have to do some, crack filling here in the next couple of years, potentially resurfacing it in the next 5 to 10.
So is this something you're looking for a resolution on that we're,
Yes, there's a resolution, here, which essentially is asking, you know, for your approval. And then if approved, it would go to the County Board of Supervisors for approval. Basically stating that the, county executive could sign, the memorandum of understandings, as well as the jurisdictional transfer documents.
Motion to approve.
so I have a motion to approve by Supervisor Dick, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Supervisor, just to the left there. Before we take our vote, Supervisor Franco. Instead of having the committee vote first, we're gonna ask Youth and Governance to cast your approval or disapproval of the situation you just heard. I agree. Aye is supported by Youth and Governance. Aye. All those on the committee favoring aye, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. Passes unanimously. Thank you.
So then the next item is just my division report. Obviously, it's here in front of you. Outside of, kind of just going through it, EW, County Trunk Highway EW has been resurfaced. County Trunk JR, it's scheduled for repaving next week. So that is kind of by the Parkside campus there. That's scheduled for next week. A significant amount of work has been done on Interstate I-94 over the last 2 to 3 weeks, with some foam jacking at bridges and joint mastic. That work for the most part is now done. So if you were on northbound 94 over the last couple of weeks, we did close down 2 lanes of traffic during working hours. But they would be open every night. County Trunk Highway L paving project is still ongoing. We're working through some issues with the storm sewer drainage issue, and some potential impacts to Energy's gas main. So that project is delayed and is taking longer than we anticipated. We've late in the project, we found some potential storm sewer issues and, like I said, Energy's conflicts. Some people have been asking about, a radar sign project along County Trunk KB, which is north of Highway 50, between 50 and JB. We did get some documents through the DOT. It is DOT funded. Looks like we'll probably be bidding that this winter with installation of those speed radar signs in the spring of 25, depending on product procurement. As you know, if you try to buy anything anymore, it's not as simple as you think it would. Outside of that, I don't have a whole lot else to report on projects. I have tried to kind of just notify kind of where we are staffing wise. We have hired 1 new mechanic, Cody Peterson, and we have hired 1 new highway patrol worker, Jeff Weissmuller. And we had a internal promotion of Chad Bischoff to a sign maker from a highway patrol worker, which did create a vacancy there. And so open positions currently now, we have a civil engineer, a mechanic, and I believe it is 4 patrol workers.
Very well. Questions for Mr. Bolt? County L, what's their projected?
We're hoping that everything will be done by Halloween, so the end of October.
Would you care to mention the committee where you're gonna be tomorrow and walk and shop and what's going on?
Yeah, so, as some of you know, Sheridan Road, State Highway 32 has several resurfacing projects going on through it. There's actually, I think, 3 of them. One of them, starts at 21st Avenue, not 21st Street in Racine, and goes down to 17th Place in Kenosha, so right about Carthage College. Through that is obviously through the village of Summers. What the DOT is proposing is putting in, the cross section. Currently, it's a 4-lane cross section, 2 lanes in each direction, north and southbound. What the DOT is proposing is a 3-lane cross section. So 1 northbound, 1 southbound, and a center left turn lane with bike lanes on the outside. So they're not widening the roadway, they're just reconfiguring the roadway striping lane configurations. So they are looking at how that impacts traffic flow, safety, speed, and other things. So through the urging of various local agencies, Kenosha County, City of Kenosha, Village of Summers, the DOT has agreed to do some speed studies through there to figure out what impacts that has to speed and what that impacts has to traffic flow. So they've done an initial speed study back in I think it was July or August was the initial one. And so we're going to review those phase 1 metrics to see how speed is currently, and then figure out what are some potential options to help reduce speed through there to make that section a little safer.
that's a synopsis, but the long and short of it also to be brought to your attention is it's been the concerns of the city of Kenosha, county of Kenosha, and Summers as well, that the reduction of 2 travel lanes in each direction to 1 travel lane in each direction for motor vehicles would be an undesirable bottleneck. So we're hoping that if there are significant reductions in speed that can be demonstrated, perhaps DOT may be inclined, can't speak for them, it's hard to do that. They may be advised or under the consideration to keep it 2 travel lanes in each direction. So that's our hope, that's our thing that we're working towards. Any further comment on that?
Yeah, no, and it just, you know, they want to continue that same cross section down. So the next phase, so that's one phase. The next phase is starting at 17th Place, which is at Carthage College, and then going down to 7th Avenue, which is kind of there by Canoia Park in that area. And, you know, kind of along the lakefront, and they are proposing to keep that same cross section lane configuration through there too. So there is, you know, trying to figure, this is the first project, so kind of with the idea that one project may lead into the next project too, I think is one of the reasons that all those local agencies are trying to get on board and ask DOT to reconsider this this change in lane configuration.
Very good, thank you for your summary. Further questions or comments for our Director of Highways? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Wolf, for your report. I think up next is Mr. Mastorino.
Thank you, Supervisor. I'll just hit a couple of updates from when the report was given. KCAB heat pump replacement project. We have a commissioning meeting for that next Friday, so that'll finalize that. We'll start our punch list for that project. So we're nearing the end of that 5-phase project. KCC overhead door replacement. All the equipment is installed. We're short 1 light bar, or photo eye cell bar for one of the exits. So we're waiting on parts, but that'll be finishing up within the next couple of weeks. PSB Joint Services washroom. We're on punch list for that one as well. So that was part of the tour you guys saw as that project there. Kemper Center fire devices. That one's finished up. That one's 100% complete. Exterior building renovations, we're still waiting on a contractor to manufacture or, not manufacture, I guess, what's the word? Working stone, sorry. They're making the limestone, for the facade repairs. So that one we're looking at another probably 4 weeks before they get back. For the courthouse ramp entrance and renovation, that one did, go out the bid. We do have a low responsible bidder for that, but we are going to push that project to spring of next year. So we're not going to try to squeeze it in at the end of this year. The contractor wanted a little more time on it. We didn't want to rush it. So we have plenty of time. So we're just going to do it that one in the spring. KCC entrance improvements. I'm sure you guys have seen it at the county center. That's at punch list. That one's complete as well. And then for the tower, for the 60th Street emergency tower, where parts are in order, we're waiting for them to come in. Do you have any questions?
Questions from the committee? As far as the courthouse, South Ramp goes, who was the bidder and when did they come in at?
It was Bukacek Construction, and they came in at $211,134.
Okay. And that is just for the construction, because you already have 11,000 or so in the engineering aspect of that, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Anything else from Mr. Storino? Just as we took a tour of the public safety building, you could look out the window and see our antennas. We've got the monopole there, and we have the more traditional pole. Maybe this is a Frank question, I'm not really sure. How are we with capacity on those currently and towards the future? Any feedback on that?
Up to defer to Frank, he's been on the redundancy project.
Yeah, The monopole here is pretty well loaded. There's actually a smaller antenna on the roof here. We had them all analyzed as far as loading. But that's really what necessitated building the other monopole by the fleet maintenance
Right.
building here a couple blocks away. This was fully loaded and we couldn't expand on this anymore, and we needed to expand for the simulcast system, so that's why that tower, so we have plenty of capacity down here with that additional tower.
Okay, good, that's my question. Any further questions for Mr. Scarino? Seeing none, thank you, man, we appreciate that, we'll talk to you again next month. Mr. Martinelli, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Brookside shingle roof project's going pretty well. They're about a third finished. Kemper water infiltration repairs, Berglund, again, got that project. They started on time on September 18th and scheduled to be completed by the end of October. The Brookside backup generator design, we were gonna have the civil work start, the conduits running out in the parking lot, the pad, things like that. But one of the pieces of equipment is not gonna be delivered until about March. And We Energies has a shutdown scheduled in the spring for that entire block, Bradford, Brookside, Willowbrook, I think all the way down to the gas station, because they have to change something on their side, so they don't want to do two separate shutdowns. So for both Brookside, the contractor, and us, it didn't make sense to open up a big hole in the parking lot and just kind of be dead there for the whole winter and have rock salt going into it. So they're gonna start right away in the spring, and then the timing will still line up with We Energies shutdowns. For the next, the tower geo-redundant upgrade, that one, they were hoping to get it done by the end of September. They had some issues, but they feel confident they'll be able to get it done in the end of October. Again, the system's been running for years. This is just a backup that we're putting in. Talked to dispatch about it, they're okay. And that's really all the updates.
So on the Brookside backup generator, which will now go to spring of 2025, WE Energies has some big infrastructure thing, that whole area, Bradford High School, the whole thing.
Yes.
So,
Repeat it all.
I mean, you can't speak for them because they're their own entity, but I mean, they would do that during the school year while Bradford's still.
Probably a weekend. It's just gonna be, it's not gonna be even a whole day. It's gonna be a partial day shutdown.
Okay,
So,
well, good, that makes sense. You're right, have to have it all tore up and so forth, it's not gonna be addressed. And then how we doing with, the backup generator here for KCC? What's the story with that one?
it's progressing. The civil side, they started way early, and they've got the pad poured now, all the rebar in it and everything. The generator still isn't due until January, February, so it's taking them a little longer, but they have plenty of time.
So that's the work that's happening on the south entrance of KCC.
Exactly.
Look at it from the parking lot.
Exactly.
I think those are my questions for the moment. Committee members, anything you'd like to ask Mr. Martinelli about? Youth and governance, questions? Very well, thank you, Frank. We'll talk about next month. Much appreciated. I think now it's time for golf, Mr. Jim Wallace.
Thank you, Chair Grady. Brief update on rounds totals as of this morning, 9:30. We're at 107,300 roughly. Our total on 9:30 of 2023 was 100,272. So roughly 7,000 rounds above last year's pace. 2023 finished at 109,800 rounds of golf. So we are set to have our highest utilization year in the history of Kenosha County Golf. So we're very excited as the sport keeps growing and people keep playing golf. And now they can see when they go out to Brightondale that we're putting everything we make back into the facilities to give the players a better product. So, very, very positive times, in golf. Just want to highlight the county executive cup we had on September 10th. Generated over $14,000 that goes toward Kenosha County Junior Golf, whether that be through our clinics or support of our first team partnership with the city of Kenosha. So a lot of good things happening on that front. And, finally, the construction out of Brightondale is going very well. We've had dry weather. Obviously, I think we had 2 rain days in the month of September, and the forecast for the first half of October looks really, really good, dropping mild temperatures. So construction's moving along very well. Very happy with the contractor. Keeps the job site very tidy. It's moving quickly and doing a really nice job. So we're really happy about it.
Explain the nature a little bit of what's happening out at Brightondale in terms of the improvements that are going on.
Yeah, so, obviously the first step of it was to improve our practice facility, our driving range. Very few bays, it was kind of hidden amongst the trees, next to the clubhouse. So, and it was also short, it was a safety issue. If you were playing the second hole of the red course, you could be hit by somebody at the driving range, being as the ball goes a lot further now than it did in 1972 when the driving range was built. So our goal was to move that key back, make it safer for folks playing the red course, expand the number of hitting bays we could have. The area just has a completely different feel now. If anybody would like to tour what's going on there, please feel free to send me an email and we can set up a tour out there. And then the other part of it was just updating the Red Pines golf course and fixing the bunkers. It's a little known fact that greenskeeping operations typically spend more money per square foot on the sand traps than they do on the greens. Because of the heavy maintenance required to keep the sand. And the standard that the average golfer expects when they hit the ball on a sand trap is very high now compared to what it used to be. And so we're constructing bunkers that are built sturdier and a lot more maintenance friendly, which they did on the white course in 2019. And those bunkers are actually the easiest thing we have to maintain. They don't wash out during heavy rains. They drain very well. So the older bunkers obviously cost a lot of money. After a rainstorm, you had to repair them. So that was the main goal of the project, as well as adding more tee space for the various levels of golfers that are playing the game nowadays, and some more forward tees for senior golfers, and leveling out. A lot of the tees have sloughed off over the years, so just leveling things out, making the playing surfaces better.
And then touch upon the additional practice green that's out there.
Yeah, so your typical 18-hole golf course has one practice green varying in size from 5,000 to 10,000 square feet. We have 2.5 golf courses, and we have one practice green that's about 7,500 square feet. So adding another practice green behind the clubhouse was certainly warranted, as ours, when we're hosting junior golf clinics, other people that might be coming to use the facilities don't have a practice green to use. And even on a Saturday morning, it's hard to find a spot to hit a few practice putts before you're round on that one practice green. So adding a second will certainly help with the user experience of the golf course.
So you could say, in a manner of speaking, that golf has been a victim of its own success. More people come out there, you have to make your facilities welcoming to them, you have to have a standard of playing, standard of practicing up to a certain level, so, that's good. Thank you for having the foresight to address the increased golf capacity that we're striving for, so.
Let's hope it stays that way.
Thanks, good. Questions for our Director of Government Comments, and like, bring forward this time, Supervisor Gallon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How has Parkside been doing with the agreement? Good things so far?
Really good, yeah. One little bit of confusion so they put a UW Parkside credit card. So in order to make a tee time at our golf course, you have to have a credit card on file.
Right.
And Parkside understandably didn't want their players putting their individual personal credit cards on file. So they put a UW Parkside credit card on file, but the players were instructed by their coach that card, you can't buy a Gatorade or a hot dog with that card. So we had one confusing instance, but we worked through that. We refined everything with the coach. I made sure all our staff at the counters has the agreement at the counter there with everything pertinent to them highlighted. So it's going really well. They are using it. So it's great. I'm a little scared we don't have range balls for them in the agreement for this year,
Yeah.
but I know they would like that next year. But we're gonna have to put a cap on it because those college kids can bankrupt us on picking the range and hitting golf balls. So no, it's going really well.
Can they buy beer though?
You know, that's between their coach and them, you know?
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Anything else for our Director of Golf, Mr. Wallace? Seeing none, thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
See you next month and we'll have a conversation then. I think for our next item 6, Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the first thing on here is a resolution to approve the acceptance of community development block grant funds for the Kemper Center. So all that one is referring to is the CDBG grant, which we actually already received for 2024, goes towards the exterior restoration of the Kemper Center. So there's a number of windows and doors that water is infiltrating right off of the lake. So the wind-driven rain is getting into the cracks of the mortar and on the doors and freezing and splintering the wood, cracking the mortar, and then refreezing and repeat. So not only are we looking for a resolution on that one, we might have another one coming through pretty shortly. They moved up the timeline for the 2025 CDBG grants, and we actually have the allocation meeting for that tomorrow. So, but for this one, that's just for the 2024 funds. It's roughly 21,000.
Questions for Mr. Moore on this particular item? Seeing none, motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Before we take our vote for committee, youth and governance, can vote aye or nay on the resolution to accept the community development block grant for Kemper Center.
Aye.
Committee members, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Passes unanimously. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda here is the division report. I don't have very many updates based on what's on the report, but I will go through just a few. So on the Kemper Center Simmons Gymnasium door replacement, we have reached out to the contractor at Bang Nelson, and we are going to be going with a different manufacturer for the door. The door there is, it's been back ordered for the entire season. I'm sure you've all seen it on the report every single month. So we should have that door in about 2 weeks, and then we can get the door not only replaced, but they're going to repaint the entire facade there and on the inside so that it all matches. For the Midwest Interstate Trail Project, we recently met with Kale Engineering and the folks at Thielen Sand and Gravel. I believe it was last week, a week before, but we met with them recently to walk the project site. Kale Engineering is getting much further along in the feasibility study. They wanted to get a more exact placement of where this trail is going to go on the Thielen property. So we not only walked the site, but they are getting in the process of setting up a public information meeting in October. So I'll have more updates on that after that happens. And other than that, don't have any more updates based on here in terms of staffing. We're still looking for a full-time park maintenance worker. We do have a very strong seasonal who was one of our best employees during the winter time who's decided to apply. So we're hopeful that he works out and he can join the team. Other than that, some of the fun stuff, if you want to come out to any of the events we have in October and November. In October, Pringle Nature Center always does their candle Halloween hike on that Friday, October 25th. On October 26th, we are doing a Halloween movie night. It's more of a kid-centered event, so you can bring the family. There's going to be trunk or treating with different nonprofits there at the Petrifying Springs Beer Garden, and we'll be playing the Addams Family. So there you go, free, come on out. And then in November, on November 30th, we're doing the annual, the now annual, this will be the second time we've had this event, the Christmas tree lighting at the Petrifying Springs Beer Garden. That tree was transplanted there last year specifically for this event, and we now have a holiday archway going in there that will be a permanent fixture to the park. You can also reskin it, so right now it has, or it's going to have the winter kit on there, so it has snowflakes and whatnot on there. And then once we switch into springtime, we can get the summer kit so that it'll have flowers and whatnot. It'll be appropriate. So it's also going to be adding on 4 benches. There's 4 benches on either side of the archway. It's pretty big. Once it goes up, it should be up in October. We're getting ready to pour the concrete pad for it right now. It'll be up there permanently, and I welcome everyone to come and check it out.
Questions for Mr. Moore? Like to inquire about, comment? Yeah, pretty active year for you, especially all the parks. You know, Silver Lake's always perennially popular, but the times I've gone to Petrifying Spring for some of these events on the weekend, very well attended. I mean, do you even have a metric to be able to gauge how many people come during the weekend or that type of thing, or how does it work out?
On the weekend, it's hard for us to tell. We do have car counters that we are paying attention to now. I can tell you that last year for the entire park, that park saw over 1.3 million visitors. And I would wager to say that a lot of them were on the weekends. So it's not only a very heavily attended park, there's a lot of events that happen in that space. And now with Garrett who was on our West End Parks, now representing the East End Parks, he's already been making substantial improvements to it. In fact, I'll just mention that my report this summer has been pretty routine. Every single month has been very much the same. But Garrett and I have been collaborating on many projects to not only make pets better, set it to a higher standard, but also make it a lot more durable. Well, we were talking about this in the hallway there, to get a coating on all the floors in the restroom so they're not just concrete and they're much easier to clean, and they will, much easier to clean, we'll leave it at that. And we've also gone through some of the pavilions as they're starting to sag over the years, because it's one of our oldest parks. We did some mud jacking so that all the concrete would be more level. So we're going through, and those little tiny details are important.
So your statement earlier was 1.3 million visitors at Pets this year.
Well, that was in 2023.
That was in 2023?
Yep.
Okay. So we don't have a number for 2024. We're not done yet.
Not yet.
And that is just for the park side of it. That excludes golf. That's not even including golf, correct?
Correct.
Have they started work at Pringle Nature Center for the roof yet, or is that still to be done?
Not yet. So we're using the same contractor that they're using over at Brookside right now. So when they're finished with Brookside, they're going to move to the Kemper Center and then over to Pringle.
Oh, so Pringle will be the last on the list,
Yes.
and they'll try to get that done sometime this construction season, correct?
Yeah, so I did speak with the contractor, because I had concerns at first about them potentially working into December, and they've assured me that the materials that they use and the process they have, it won't be a concern for them, so
Okay,
they signed on the dotted line.
we're good. Another banner year for parks. Questions or comments for Mr. Moore? Seeing none, we thank you for your report, and we'll talk again next month.
Well, I do have one more item that was added to the agenda,
Yeah.
just at the request of the finance committee. So I'll pass that for you guys if you'd like a copy of it as well, but the report that they requested, if you remember at the previous committee meeting that we had, a resolution went through for the use of agricultural land at Kenosha County Veterinary Memorial Park. So feel free to look at the report. What the finance committee requested that we explore is what the potential uses for that land might be beyond what its current use is. So what it's currently being used for is agricultural land. We have an agreement with the farm that is just adjacent to the park, the Lois brothers. Right now they're farming hay and alfalfa in the park, or in clover as well. So what I explored are different options that the finance committee was interested in taking a look at. So the first one is if we were to discontinue making that agricultural turn into a prairie. Option 2 is if we were to integrate it into the existing trail system and reforest the area. Option 3 is to turn it into green space or turf. And then option 4 is to keep the agreement the way that it is, but set it out to an RFP so that we can get the most competitive bid for the land. So as I go through each one of them, and I can summarize what the findings really are, is that every single one of the options 1, 2, and 3, yes, they would be a value add to the park. However, each one of those will not only come at a substantial startup cost, but now we've been adding maintenance costs to the park. So they all have different varieties of what the maintenance cost would be. I would say that option 1 would have the lowest maintenance and the lowest maintenance cost, because the park's theme for a prairie, and I'm referring to a prairie now on option 1, which is on page 2. For a prairie maintenance, we typically have a company come out and do once every 2 years, they'll do either a prescribed burn or a spray so that it doesn't start to overgrow or we get the invasive species removed. And then option 2, we consider to be one of the pricier ones, as well as option 3, reforesting an area like that. Not only is that costly to get the correct tree and to get the amount of trees that you want, the density in that area to actually make it an enjoyable hiking experience. But we also referenced in there, not too long ago, there was an oak savanna project that took place in that park, and it's unsure, the park is unsure what happened and why this occurred, but all the trees that were planted during that project did not make it, they all died. So that used to be a quarry, so we're not sure if the soil there is too gravelly to be able to maintain trees that weren't natural to the area. But transplanting back, I think this was in 2017 was unsuccessful. So that would come at a heightened risk, option number 2. And then option number 3, that one actually has some of the higher startup costs that you would see turning it into turf. And the only issues that I explored in that one, trying to play devil's advocate, is that the land there, the contours of it and the shape of the land on that particular part does not lend itself to any sort of field. So sports field, event space would be difficult to get a good use out of it if it was turned into turf. And what's explored in all 3 is the maintenance cost that it would come, not just at either paying for a service to come out and do the prairie maintenance, but also the cost of parks, seasonal and full-time labor. The amount, because we're talking about 26 acres, 27 acres. So mowing that takes a significant amount of time, and we're talking at least once a week, if not 2, if you have a season like we have this year. So that's the best summary I can give on this one. Does anyone have any questions?
Supervisor Decker.
Under option 2, you talked about the Oak Savannah project, and it says it was in 2021. How much did that cost? Do you know? Can you find that out?
Yeah, so I
Every
actually,
tree died apparently?
yeah, as far as we can tell, every tree that was brought in there died. So I do have the numbers for that one. It's hard to pin down an exact number because some of it was done by the parks team and some of it was done by a third-party service that came out and did it. I would say that one probably was more expensive than all the other 3 because that one also required a design. So there was a design that went into it that went out to bid. And then there was also the construction of it and the nursery that also housed all those trees. So it was, I couldn't ballpark a number for you, but I do have all the documents for it.
Can you send those
Yeah.
or try to ballpark a number? Cause
Yeah.
I'd like to know how much money we spent and got 0 out of it.
Yeah, it was 2021.
Okay.
I'll get that for you.
And then how long do you know how long we have been renting this field, these fields?
How long we've been
To the
renting it
Loyce
to the
Brothers
Loyce
Parks?
Brothers? I believe that one goes back to 27. But I'll have to double check that for you as well.
So I'm just wondering, we've been leasing this land to this farm since 2017. How come this is the first year we've seen a lease agreement? Do you know why?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean,
Because we, as a county board, have to approve all leases,
right, I mean,
and this is the first year that it's come before us.
well, I'd have to defer to Matt Collins on that one.
What's on the prior years? So the first resolution, I'm trying to find the history on it, was 2016.
Okay.
And that was written up in a resolution. So, I mean, I can't pinpoint what dates and meetings it was on, but I would have to believe that it came across the board if it was already doctored out in a resolution.
In 2016, thank you, that's all.
As far as the contract goes with the Loyce, family, is it specifically in that contract, they will be farming alfalfa and hay?
No, it's not.
Okay. And that's a good thing to delve into because some crops require more treatment of herbicide, pesticide and so forth. It's my impression that alfalfa and hay do not. They're one of the more self-sustaining crops and actually nitrogen fixators. They put nitrogen back into the soil, which is a good thing.
Right.
But it might be interesting to explore what types of crops would be best suited. I mean, look at this map here. The watershed is immediately below these croplands, so I mean, that's a cause for some concern, I suppose, so.
The reasons you're discussing is why, the Loyce Brothers, it's not in the agreement that there's a specific kind because they want the option to put in there what they think is gonna fertilize the land best. And they actually spend, I'd have to get the figure for you, but they spend their own money on fertilizing that land, which will have long-standing benefits whenever we would like to do something with it. And I spoke with Butch pretty recently and he said, whenever the county's ready, they're not gonna push back. If we wanna turn it into a prairie or a forest, you know, they've been putting time into it. It was the way he explains it, more of a favor that he would do it because the farm is adjacent to the park. So it's easy for him to bring his equipment in there. And he is cognizant of what he's farming every year and does change it. That's why recently he went with clover for that exact reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Any further questions or comments on this particular item? Thank you for bringing that forward. I think it was a finance committee's request, so we're reviewing it now. Very well. Anything else from Mr. Moore? Seeing none, the next agenda item is, what is it, Ms. Billingsley?
Yes, I have two quick items I'd like to just bring up. September 9th through the 12th, I attended the National APWA Conference. Was great to go. There was a variety of employee engagement and seminars that I was able to join, which were, I'd have to say, the most popular of probably the entire seminars that were offered at the same time. So it was really good. I learned a couple of things and are gonna be maybe engaging them into practice in public works in the next year or so. September 17th, we held our second annual employee appreciation luncheon. I feel that most of the staff were very appreciative of it, enjoyed the 1 hour lunch from 11 to 12. We took a group picture like we did last year. So we're hoping to get those posted throughout the newsletters in the upcoming years. So that's all I have.
Very well. Questions for our Director of Public Works? Seeing none, thank you for the report.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned. Second. And before we adjourn, I'll just reiterate, we're looking at the 14th of next month for our review of budget and a 6 p.m. ACC. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Governance? Aye. All those opposed, say adjourned. Thank you.